Okay, I'd like to formally open the Littleton Conservation Commission meeting. It's March 4th, 2025, virtually. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add for administrative discussions? I just have one, which is a reminder that this Thursday at 6:30 over in the library is the MAPC Nagog Hill Orchard community input meeting. All right, if we don't have anything for that, let's go ahead and jump into the minutes, which are dated February 18th, 2025. Does anyone have any omissions or corrections? I have some, but I'll go last. Anybody have anything?
I've got a handful of them. Let's see here. Under the continued public hearing for 13 Winged Cove, it's 13 public, it's continued public hearing without the A in it. And then under transfer of Nagog Lot 107 discussion, that just needs a period at the end. For the land use permit for the Littleton Conservation Trust Owl Prowl, it says Miss Seward move to approve. We just need the D on moved.
Yeah.
In that same sentence, it says with the condition that they et, it's missing the L for let,
Yep,
the Conservation Department. And then it says, let's see, let the Conservation Department know at least 48 hours in advance so that the police, and it's missing the E on police.
Yep.
And then under Shade Tree Committee, Matt Cahill, we're just missing the A in Cahill.
Yep.
And for Conservation Agent and Assistant Conservation Agent updates, I don't know if we wanted to add no specific updates as the hiring process for the Assistant Conservation Agent.
Sure. That's great. Yep.
And that's all I had.
Like that was on me. I think Amy did the minutes and I was supposed to review them and I didn't get a chance to. It was a chaotic week.
Yeah. All right, I have a couple on page 1, and you all might be able to help me with this one. For 15 Powers Road, down at the bottom, when we were discussing with Matt, I wanted to add that Matt Morrow was encouraged to review previous hearings for requests and comments by the Littleton Conservation Commission, because he had missed some, and we had told him to just kind of go back and recapture all the things that we had talked about previously. Let's see, on Sarah Indian Way, the third one down, float material is fully encapsulated and in good shape and removed from lake annually. It's because the applicant did state that. Okay, down Shade Tree Committee, we got the Matt Cahill. So I wanted to make comment that who's present and went through their proposed bylaw. It states which has been reviewed. I want it to state which is still being reviewed by town council, because that's still an ongoing process for sure. That's it that I had with Andrews. I move that we accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle.
Maxwell, aye.
Ed.
Ed Foltz, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
All right, I'm just going to move John over and Matt Morrow over. Okay. Okay, I'd like to go and let's talk about administrative discussions, possible need for in-person meeting after March 31st. Tim had mentioned that we don't have clarification yet on that. Andrew, I know that you've booked a room 103 for April 1st. When do you think we'll know if we're going to be in person or?
It's hard to say at the moment. The legislature is still kind of working out the details of a couple of different bills to basically make virtual meetings permanent. Hopefully we can get something in place fairly soon so that, the virtual meetings can continue. But yeah, I mean, everything is still pending and we're just fingers and toes crossed.
Okay, so for commissioners, we should pencil in that the April 1st meeting potentially will be in room 103, and Tim will ask you to send out a couple reminders on that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Community Preservation Act application review.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of updates for you guys tonight. The invasive species, the frog pond application was approved
Yay.
by the CPC, so that was great at the
Cool.
meeting held last month. And currently, I'm just waiting on a couple of quotes to come in for the walkway still. Hopefully, we can get those fairly soon. But I'm hoping to get, as soon as I get those figures, I want to send a draft out to Tim to then send to you guys with that figure that I then come up with. And hopefully we can get that reviewed at our meeting on the 18th, I believe. I don't know what day we're on now. And then the CPC meeting will be that week. So if everything goes smoothly and if you guys want to move forward, we certainly can. And we'll go from there.
Okay, excellent. That's good news.
Good
Frog
work.
pond.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Super. Assistant Conservation Agent updates. I don't know that we have any at this point. Tim, is that correct?
Yeah, so we had an interview with a strong candidate last Tuesday. She really wants the 25 hours, and with the confusion of whether or not the assistant agent is going to be taking on the Clean Lakes Committee duties and how many hours the position is going to be, if it's going to be 25, 32, 40, we're not sure. We can't, we can't give her an offer until we know how many hours it's going to be. We have a meeting it's actually tomorrow. Me and Chase are meeting with the water department and town administrator's office to hopefully get an answer on if we're getting the Clean Lakes Committee duties, if we're getting increased hours, how many hours it's going to be, so we can send out the offer to this applicant.
Right. So I'll be at that meeting as well. So I think
Okay.
hopefully for the next meeting, we'll have something more definitive for you all. So
She's only interested in 25 hours.
that's what the posted was for
If it
25
was more,
hours.
did she say she would not be interested?
What was that, Ed? Sorry.
If it was more, did she say she would not be interested?
She said 40 was a non-starter. 32, not fond of the idea of it being 32. She said she'd think about it. I kind of got the impression it's
also
a non-starter, but
So we should know more hopefully tomorrow, or the day after.
yeah.
So can I ask, why are we interviewing if we don't know? It just doesn't really seem fair to her. If we have a post for 25 hours and then we go in and say, oh, sorry, just kidding.
Right.
It might be 40 hours.
We
I think
did
we-
make her aware before the interview that this position could be bumped up to 32 or 40 hours and asked if she still wanted to go ahead with the interview process. And she did.
Okay.
Yep.
Just because we weren't sure how many hours it was actually going to land on.
Kyle, we understand that.
Yeah, it's
Kind of
just-
frustration with that for sure.
Yeah.
I can see how we could lose a good opportunity with her. It sounds like she was a strong candidate.
Yeah. All right, tree removal and dock filing checklists. Those have been forwarded on for everyone to continue to review those if we have any comments, and we can come to that later tonight if you'd like. I think, well, does anyone, because we do have time before the 7:45, does anyone have any questions on the tree removal or the dock filing checklist? Tim, have there been any, I don't think there's been any changes to those, correct?
Not since you guys, the last version that was sent to you guys by Amy on, I think it was last week.
And Michael, you had looked at the dock permitting once again, right? The checklist?
I haven't looked at it since the one that I had made some comments on earlier,
Okay.
but I can go back and take a look.
Your comments were incorporated into the latest version, Michael.
Okay.
So we may have to update where it says the revision date was December 31st of 2024 then. The tree removal was just updated for sure.
Sarah, I do have a quick administrative item that we could
Yep,
probably
great, go for it.
super quick. I scheduled a meeting that Clean Lakes is going to be having where DCR Lakes and Ponds is going to be coming in and giving them kind of a lake management 101. There's going to be representatives from Parks and Rec. I'll be there, Water Department, and the Clean Lakes Committee themselves. Just to kind of get all on the same page of our problems with Littleton and what they would recommend we do and how we go about doing it.
Do you want to let the commissioners know when and where that meeting
Yeah,
is?
sorry.
They wish to attend?
So that was scheduled for Monday, March 17th at 1 p.m. Should be about an hour.
Is that in person, virtual, or hybrid?
It's virtual only.
Okay. Can you send out a link to that when you get a chance?
Yeah, sure thing. I think I just submitted the agenda to Andrew yesterday, so I can pass that on to you guys.
And who's running that meeting? Who called it?
Oh boy, her name is Kara. I cannot remember her last name.
Okay, but it wasn't Littleton.
No, it's DCR, the DCR Lakes and Ponds rep.
Okay, great.
Did we want to maybe post it as a joint venture just in case 4 of us wind up going?
We could, well, it wouldn't be a problem that's already posted. You could remove that. There's no, okay.
So what I could do is just tomorrow put a Concom agenda with the same link. Boom, 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 and
Okay.
Does anyone think that they'll be around at 1 o'clock to sit in on that besides Tim? And that's on Monday?
That's Monday, March 17th at 1. Yep.
Yeah, I already checked my calendar. I have a conflict.
I might be able to make that work, actually.
Yeah,
I'll
I
try
might
to
be
get
able
there.
to also.
Okay. So yeah, Andrew, you might have 4.
okay.
I don't know how busy if you are, if you can multitask while you're in the office to do that as well. So
I can certainly put together a very brief agenda using the CLCs and just put that up tomorrow too, so we're covered.
okay. We have 2 more minutes before we can open the 7:45 continued.
I just realized I need to make my way to town hall and sign those CRs. I haven't done that. Am I the
Oh
only
yes.
That would make 2 of us.
one? I meant to do that.
Calm
today.
down.
Didn't have the time.
Do you all think you'll be able to do that in the coming days?
Yeah, I should be able to get
Yeah.
that one.
How late can I do it?
We're open till 4:30, Ed.
4:30, okay.
Okay. Yeah, so just to be clear that Tim doesn't have the paperwork, Andrew does.
Oh.
Yeah,
So we go to.
Upstairs. Yep, clerk's office.
Okay. Good thing you said that because I would have gone downstairs.
And Andrew has lots of pens there.
Tons of pens. Pick a pen, any pen.
I take it they disappear regularly.
Mainly me doing it, yes.
Good.
All right.
So next meeting, so just as we catch up, March 18th and then April 1st. So the 18th will still be online, and then the 1st we'll figure that one out.
Was there some regulation or something that said they had to stop?
They're still in process to determine that.
Oh.
So hopefully Andrew will let us know at the next meeting, but we do have a room scheduled for the 1st, which
The
is
current regulation is running out, correct? Was that?
Yeah.
that's the process.
March 31st. But Andrew, you said that they're discussing it now still?
Yeah, the legislature has a couple of different versions going on, and a lot of communities are writing in their support for keeping virtual and hybrid meetings going. So hopefully the legislature can get something together that they agree on fairly soon and get it approved, and we'll be good to go. But there's a pretty good chance that it's going to run out, and there'll be a little bit of a gap between enacting the legislation.
Okay.
They've already extended this once, right? We're in this because they extended it from the last time, right? I would be
Right.
shocked if they don't find
Yeah.
a permanent solution here. It's a shame that they haven't had the foresight to get it in place before this
So
deadline.
much more convenient for the public. Never mind us.
It's interesting, Kyle, because the last time they extended it before it expired, like well in advance, but clock is definitely ticking on this one.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because they're trying to find a permanent solution now, so
Sure.
it needs to be a little bit more robust.
Yep.
But again, that doesn't, they've known for 2+ years, right? This is the deadline, so,
Exactly.
you
Okay,
Is what it is.
7:45, we're gonna go ahead and open continued discussion enforcement order 15 Powers Road, unpermitted grading and fill in a buffer zone. So who do we have? We've got Matt and John. Whoever's gonna speak, if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hi, Matt Morrow, representing John McGigan, over for 15 Powers Road. John, as you noted, is also here as well.
How's it going?
Welcome, John. Okay,
Am I
Matt,
able,
Yeah,
to
Matt.
share screen?
yes, Tim will let you share for sure.
Okay.
Okay, that's great, Matt.
Okay. So I did submit a narrative, proposed restoration of the driveway area. That was altered. I did watch the video of that meeting. So the vast majority of what my narrative was based on talking points that I got from the commission on what they would like to see. The narrative called for, once the excavation work was done, before anything was loomed over and jute matted over in this area where the driveway was going to be regraded back to original, it was suggested that a member of the commission or Tim go out and take a look at it to make sure that it's in the shape it's supposed to be in. No fill surprises wind up showing up, etc. That is actually written in the narrative as part of the proposed restoration plan. That once the initial grading is taken up and all the fill is taken out before it is finished graded and smoothed out and loomed and seeded and jute matted, that the commissioner or the agent will come out and take a look at it, just to make sure that the fill that's underneath was going to hold up. So that is in the plan. It calls for the entire lower area around the wetlands at the bottom of the slope to have a meadow mix seeding. The meadow mix seeding has lots of different varieties of plants that can bloom during all three parts of the growing season. But I also did add a vegetative barrier here of about 80 feet long with a variety of like dogwood, blueberry, and I believe it was winterberry that I put in. The reason why I chose this particular area is one thing I had in my notes that struck me when I was on site, when I was delineating the wetland, that this area between flags 4 and flags like 8 and 9 seem to be the most sensitive receptors to, overland flow of water. Everything that comes off, like for example, the wetland here at flag 4, it's not shown on the plans, but it veers off sharply and goes up to the side of the road by a culvert entrance off of flag 1. This area here is close to the slope, close to the house. Street flow comes off and would go back into the back section here. So this would help to create a vegetative buffer and enhance the wildlife area section. I called for stake wattles to be placed at the bottom of the slope. Again, per remarks I heard of the commission's wishes. I don't know if the scrolling is showing here, but I just scrolled up to the meadow mix.
Mhm.
Not sure if you guys had a chance to take a look at it. It's actually, that's a really good mix that New England Wetland Plants puts out. I've used it in a lot of, shall I say, transitional area / upland restoration areas as a buffer to a wetland. In this area, it should take quite well, based on what I saw from the soils and the water flow there. And I also put in a detail that, you basically would trench out the bottom to, fit the wattle in and stake it down. I also have the areas here as far as the scheduling goes. So essentially, this spring, everything would be prepared, and the excavation and cleaning and looming and jute matting would be completed by spring once the commission did inspect the area that was graded out. Any soils that were needed to be spread out would be also spread out in the spring. For the slope and buffer reclamation, it would be jute matted, and then seeded, and then the shrubs planted. We would allow for growth over the summer. I would monitor it. If anything I noted wasn't growing in, if the seeding was sparse, we would continue to reapply. And I would file reports to the commission at the end of the growing season. And then for the next 2 years after that, file a report in the spring and the fall, on, the growth going on, until the commission was satisfied that it was done. I would note that sometimes weather gets in the way of the work. If we have an overly rainy spring, like we did, I believe it was 2019, we had April came, we had 30 days in April and 28 of them it rained. So that could get in the way, but that's why I use the spring range instead of months, because sometimes you have to adjust because of the weather.
Matt, can you just go over and just review for the commissioners where your wattles are?
So you see this blue line here?
Mhm.
It would be coming out from the entrance in the driveway. It would go down and then curve around the restored slope area here.
So Matt, just for future reference, we do have a code for wetlands in terms of color coding for when you present any type of plans. So it's helpful just to remember that we do have codes.
Yes. Okay.
Commissioners, questions on this? I know we'd had some questions in terms of, in addition to the restoration, the moving of structures or storage items that were going to be moved from down below up front. So I'm not sure if those are shown on any plan or not.
There's a shed on the far left.
I think the items that were there after John had purchased the property. I think we were looking at that. Any that were in the zone, I'm not sure the trailers and such, where they are in reference up front to the resource area.
Well, I don't know if you guys can see the screen I just flipped.
Yeah.
I flipped to the other plan that John had submitted. I don't know if John wants to speak to the areas that he stored, is doing storage and what he's done. John, if you want to chime in here, that'd be great.
Yeah, I guess that the inventory list of what I have stored was the inventory list of what I have. I kind of consolidated everything out behind the shed. Not on the plan that, oh yeah, on the plan Matt has up now behind the shed, you can see the little bumped out area that says storage, see list. That would be the list of, if you go down the list where it says behind the shed, there's a list of what's back there.
Matt, can you scroll down a little?
Like this?
Trying to see if anybody can see where that is.
Let me see if I can zoom in.
You mean what John just talked about? That
The area that
the
says
list, but
storage.
That's
behind
what
the shed.
this is what he was referring to, storage C list.
After the driveway is shrunk, will there be enough room for that storage container?
The storage container is not really in the driveway right now.
I was under the assumption the storage container was moving because it had been added and it's in a resource area.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I thought that previous discussions, not in the last, 2 or so, John, we had talked about the container moving because it had been added since the purchase, like when the road was done. So that was in a resource area. So I
This
thought
in this
that-
container.
Correct. Commissioners, can you help here? What your recollection was?
I mean, I'll chime in. We haven't talked about the container at all, but I did just file a permit. I talked with Henry last week. I didn't think you needed a permit for a temporary structure. I told him it's going to be there about 6 months.
Matt, if you can go through and tell us in terms of distance to the wetlands, where the trailer is. I don't know if you have something to scale.
So here is your 50-foot zone right here, which this plan is to scale. So your 50-foot zone would be here. So if I can go back to my narrative drawing. So that would be approximately in the area where you see 98.4 right here. This dotted line would be your 50-foot line. So it's approximately 30 feet away from the edge of the wet at the closest point. I don't know if that satisfactorily answers your question, Sarah.
It does. Commissioners, thoughts?
What have we done in the past when it comes to putting structures inside the 50? Even if it's a temporary structure, which this is, theoretically. It's only been there forever, though.
The container I just got, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks ago, a couple months maybe.
That wasn't there when this all started.
No, the
I
pictures,
didn't.
you guys have seen the pictures.
Yeah,
You'd see
makes
that.
sense.
The first few walkthroughs you guys did, it wasn't there.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't. I will admit I did not see that added onto the plan. This restoration plan.
So, I mean, the options here would be to either move the trailer out of the 50-foot zone or maybe file, because it's a temporary structure, file a request for determination with a request for a waiver, noting that the structure would be removed within 6 months. It's up to that's a commission call because it is in your 50-foot zone.
Yeah, it would not be, my understanding is that it would not be permitted. It wouldn't meet the waiver.
It wouldn't meet your waiver criteria.
I don't believe so. I obviously can't speak for anyone, but that's just thoughts on that. So under the enforcement order, we were not talking about when this all started, the container was not there, correct?
Correct.
And the container has been added into a resource area. So enforcement would be that it would have to be removed.
Yeah, I could put it outside the buffer zones, I guess.
Okay.
I guess if it's outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yep. Then it doesn't matter to us then, as long as you're out of the 100, John, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll throw it right up on the side of the road.
Yeah, you can move it street side basically right here in the front yard temporary. It's a temporary structure, so it would be gone after summer. So
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess if I put it up there, it could stay there a lot longer though, in theory, right?
Yeah, I think you just have to, as you said, talk to was it the code enforcer that you were speaking with?
yeah, that's who he was speaking to.
The building. Yeah.
Okay. So John, if you could, because it sounds like there may have been some things that were done prior to our last site walk. Can you tell us, has anything been removed that was there that was supposed to be removed out back, like some of the plastic storage containers that I think historically hold water or things like that? Anything that's in the resource area?
The plastic containers that are watertight saran wrapped. Yes, I did move them closer to behind the shed.
Okay. So are they out of the 50-foot now, do you think?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I don't think that, I guess besides the storage container, I don't believe there's anything inside the 50-foot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Matt?
what he had done was the areas that you guys were concerned about. He basically cleaned up, took everything out, and moved it either he stored some in the shed or he moved it behind the shed outside the 50-foot.
Or put it in a container at the bottom of the driveway.
Yep. Which will now be at the top of the driveway.
It'll be now over here. Yep.
Yeah, right up on the side of the road.
Okay. Commissioners, other questions that we might have for Matt or John? Tim, anything? So I guess in what I'm hearing is that we have a restoration plan, if we're comfortable with that, and to recognize that this can start, we would start with removing the container first. And then when the weather permitted, begin on the erosion plan.
Yeah, I thought we threw some dates out last meeting.
Can you remind me of those, Kyle?
No, that's, I can't, unfortunately. I want to say there's something about April, not starting until April or, but I don't know.
Matt or John, do you recall those dates?
We had spoken about mid-April. Usually when I put spring, it usually refers to mid-April. I probably should have clarified that on the report, but I can tell you now that usually that's why I said about, the April showers sometimes get in the way.
So we meet again on March 18th and April 1st. Do you anticipate any other changes to this plan?
I don't anticipate any changes. But what I will do is work with John, and if he moves the storage container prior to the March 18th meeting, I won't appear, but I'll send, either myself or John will send a message to Tim saying, hey, the container's been moved, go check it out. And then I'll check in on April 1st with you guys just to talk about, pre-construction for the spring. Just to check in.
I probably won't have a chance to get to it, but maybe the April 1st meeting. Because you see, the problem is now that there's a bunch of stuff in the container. So now I have to take a bunch of stuff that's in the container out of the container to then move the container and then put everything back into the container.
Now that's true. We are going to have some rain and some serious snow melt going on. So
yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about, because I haven't seen the container, so I'm assuming
It's a standard 20-foot shipping container.
yeah, I know what it is. I'm just saying in terms of where it's placed in reference to where you had the breakout going down the driveway on the right. I'm just curious if we have.
Behind the breakout.
Pardon me?
Behind that, you're talking about that little, opening where water might have been going?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that the site is ready for, if all of a sudden we have a thaw or more rain.
Oh, I didn't take the wattles out. Wattles are still there. They go right up to the front of it.
Okay.
Wattles are in the same spot that you guys came out and verified, I think.
Commissioners, what would you like to do? So we keep moving. Continue this to the 18th.
I mean, I guess
Sounds like he wants to continue to April 1st.
yeah. What would we be looking for at the 18th at this point? And
It could just. Yep. So if we go to the 1st, what are the expectations of what will be done for the 1st? So that way we can move on and hopefully start to close this out.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. What else is it? Just that container needs to get out of the resource area, right? That's what I'm seeing as the, other than performing the work.
I believe so, but also that nothing else gets added, because last time
Sure.
we've added a container.
Was there a trailer at the end of the driveway? There was something there, I thought.
There was, Ed. You're correct.
Okay, that's why I thought it was a container. The
The
container.
trailer was one of the many things that had been removed.
Okay. I think for me, on April 1st, if the storage container is moved and Matt's prepared to start doing the work in the next couple of weeks after that, seems like a reasonable.
Okay, so Matt, we will continue this to April 1st with the understanding that the Thursday prior, you'll submit photos and an update of where we are. But just to be clear that the expectation is that we'll be ready to go for the 1st.
Okay, I'm just writing this down.
Okay, commissioners have any other questions? Or John, do you have any questions?
Not at this moment.
Okay. All right, if you have questions, feel free to call or email Tim, and we will see you on April 1st.
Can't wait.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's
Have a
8:05.
good night, guys.
Have
Thank
a great
you,
night.
Matt. It's 8:05. We're going to open the 8 o'clock continued public meeting, request for determination of applicability, 10 Sarah Indian Way. U27-15-0, reconstruction of shed and dock permitting. Let's. Okay, Mr. Brooks, are you here?
Good evening. Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep, John, if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. My name's John Brooks. I'm the owner of 10 Sarah Indian Way.
Okay.
Just give me a
great.
chance. I'm going to share some slides with you guys.
Yep, thank you.
Can you guys confirm you can see these slides?
Yep.
Great.
Thank you
Okay.
for your, John, I just want to thank you for your plans showing kind of the two alternatives.
Yeah, you're welcome. You guys will recall from last time we talked about two things, permitting of an existing temporary dock and the reconstruction of an existing shed within the original footprint. There is no outstanding concerns about the dock, so I'm just going to move to the concerns that we had with respect to the shed, if that's okay.
Yep. So John, just so you know, oh, there you go. You're going to have to zoom in quite a bit or zoom out quite a bit. There you go.
Okay. Cool. So we talked just the way I kind of approach this was just risks and mitigations, and then kind of assess for residual risk at the end. I kind of started off with erosion control from the soil that was being removed, and talked about the mitigation, which I was just going to remove it from the 100-foot buffer zone. Didn't seem to be any concerns about that. And then you all added in some risks as well, and I'd like to go over those risks now. Mr. Gerbig mentioned he wanted me to address the storage of materials, specifically, well, I kind of guessed at the risk of probably erosion or damage to vegetation was probably what he was thinking.
Yep.
My mitigation is really just to not store anything down there, basically. There's really no reason to store anything. If I bring materials down, it will be to actually construct the shed. And because there's a road down there, I'll just leave an exit with the materials at the end of the day. The only exception really is I would ask that once I build the floor system, the shed, that I can store lumber, etc., on the actual the floor deck. And then I've notated that as well in the plan. So if we just kind of go up here, you'll see note 4 is material storage on the floor system or outside the 100-foot buffer zone only. So given Mr. Gerbig isn't here, does anybody want to speak about this?
Yeah, your assumption's right. It was soil material was the question. Where if you, as you start to dig these piers, your footings, where you're going to stockpile the earth material that you excavate. That was, I don't think lumber sitting on your floor is fine. We're not worried about lumber washing down into the pond. And I think Chase was relatively comfortable with this, knowing that your driveway is also there acting as a buffer, but we don't want to see a 30 cubic yard stockpile of soil just sitting next to the pond and have the ability to wash down into it.
Yep, agree. Any other thoughts on that before I move to the next one?
I think you can carry on.
There is a discussing to that point. There is a discussion as well, I think, from Mr. Foltz about just general erosion within the work area during construction. There was a suggestion to install erosion control prior to construction. So that's what I have notated on the plans. So here, the blue line is the erosion control just surrounding the entire work area. And it was suggested wattle, so that seems like what I would likely do. I think, Mr. Foltz, do you want to speak to this? I think you brought up this concern.
I think that's fine. That does the job.
Okay. Let's see. There's some conversation about whether it would be worth it to move the shed upland. I think Mr. Maxfield, you talked about this originally, and Mr. Gerbig talked about it as well. It seemed to be that the conclusion where we ended up was it could be worth moving it up, but only if there was a stabilization plan that was in place and approved by a conservation agent. And so what I've done is effectively created a separate plan for that. You'll notice I have one plan, which is that original location, and the second plan, which I'm calling the alternate plan, which is in that second location, which is further away from the wetland. And I've noted a few things. One is that stabilization area, which is where the old shed is located now. And then it references note 5, which is a stabilization plan would be approved by the conservation agent once footings posts are established. Mr. Maxfield, do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, I guess yeah, appreciate looking into this. We just need some more details on what this stabilization area would consist of. It sounds like right now it's exposed gravel. As it's been sitting in the
Actually,
shed.
well, I think with the way we left it is the plan would be due if I moved it back. That was kind of where we left it. So I just haven't notated it as hexagonal like fill pattern, but that's not the plan. Obviously, the plan would be if I decide to move it back, I submit a plan to you all for approval. And based on some recent conversations I had with Miss Green and some of my neighbors, it would likely be even though the plans wasn't really due, it would likely be just moving like some pine needles and leaf litter in place, as well as potentially planting some birch trees. One of these trees, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor. One of these trees is a birch tree, and it's probably a good choice as well. And like the last thing I had in mind was potentially some ground cover. And there's a few plants that were suggested to me, but I didn't think that the conversation would happen now, given our last conversation. So that plan would have to be due and accepted if I decided to move it back. Is that still something the way you're thinking, Mr. Maxfield, or would you prefer to see the plan up front?
Yeah, I think we probably want to see it up front. Just I don't want you to get to a point where you start doing this work and you're like, okay, yep, I do have to move it over or move it back to this alternate location, and then we haven't seen something, right? We typically approve those restoration or replanting plans as part of the initial packet.
Okay, and given
And
my
John, there
Go
can be some flexibility there. So
Absolutely.
even the narrative that you just put forth to us is fine. So just to put that narrative on this plan would then allow us to close out the request for applicability. So, but as Kyle said, you don't want to stop, because if it's the summer, it could be caught up in meetings. So it's best to come up with your narrative now with the assumption that you have the choice to do one or the other, whether you keep it in the same footprint or you're able to move it up gradient.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Do you guys have any feedback based on what I just told you? My plan is the birch trees, the ground cover, and the moving that the pine needles leaf litter in. Is any feedback on that I can get now?
Is this high
Yep, go ahead,
canopy area?
Kyle.
I'm just curious what the tree guy there's a few trees shown on this plan, but does this area get any sort of daylight, any sun? I guess my concern is we'd have to talk with Tim or Sarah what would be able to grow, what's suitable for this area, and I'm certainly not my specialty, but
And just putting pine needles and leaf whatever, isn't that all just gonna wash away?
Well, it's kind of what's there naturally now. If you look up on that slope, and I do have some pictures if you guys want to see it. Probably wouldn't hurt for me to go look at those pictures again.
You could do some erosion mulch as well, which has some nice kind of clay binder in there as well.
Erosion mulch, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The ground cover is, there's no understory here. It's just kind of that kind of material. And this is a birch tree on the left, and there's a hemlock over there. So that's what the two trees that you see next to the road. Is there a lot of light? there's not a lot of sun, but I think originally I was thinking evergreens, but I just don't think that's a good choice. And Miss Green suggested a birch might be a better choice, so
Right.
I think she's right.
Yeah, I think anything you can add in there to stabilize the ground that is going to see daylight that it hasn't seen in many years would be great.
Commissioners, do you feel comfortable approving both versions? I would think that if you could come back, Mr. Brooks, with a narrative on the plan, I would feel comfortable putting forth this to close for the next meeting, if that's what you'd like to do.
I had a question on the upland version. You
Mhm.
had a linear drain underneath. Wasn't that linear drain originally intended to be to take the water off the roof and then it wouldn't want to be underneath?
Yeah, so there was actually one last
well.
one, which was after erosion under the existing. There's one last risk, which was erosion due to roof runoff. That was, I think Miss Sear had mentioned that. I looked at a bunch of options on this, and I'm happy to get into the different options I looked at. In the end, I chose sort of the simplest and least invasive, which is really just to use the land underneath the shed as infiltration. And my strategy would be to install a wash stone bed under the shed and to collect water off the roof with gutters and to distribute it via a linear drain. And then I've notated that on the plan. So Mr. Fultz, that's what you're seeing on those plans is that linear drain.
Yep.
Fair enough.
We
I
do
think
have
that's
somebody from the public who has raised their hand and like to speak.
Yep. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding that drain before we take questions?
I guess how are you conveying the water to because the drain is under the shed, right? Are we just letting it drip off the edge and?
Yeah, my thought, there's two ways I could go with this. Basically, the downspouts will connect into that linear drain. Remember, the shed is off the ground, so there's space under the shed to run a collection point. And then there's two ways to deal with the linear drain. You could actually put it in the stone bed, or you could just suspend it from the joists. I was thinking to just suspend it from the joists. I would actually be able to see it work and perform that way. And I'd also be able to, if there were any problems, it would be apparent and obvious to me. So that was kind of the way I thought I would start off, and I think it would work.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm okay with that. It was just a matter of how, I guess now I get a better picture of what you're describing.
Great.
All right, let's go ahead. We have a hand up with L Tower. If you could go ahead and give your full name and your address, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Paula Forsythe Torrielli. I've owned the abutting lot since 1977. While I'm not against the fundamental premise of this, I do have some questions I'd like to have answered.
Shirley, go ahead. Thank you for your introduction. And just for the commission, as you're looking at the lake, are you on the?
Mine is next to what used to be Choate's.
So the commissioners here may not know that. While I do, you might not. You may have to say to the left or the right.
Well, as I'm looking at the pond, I am to his left.
Okay.
Straya is to his right.
Great. Okay. So if you'd like to ask your questions, that will try and help you there.
Well, I definitely agree the boathouse needs to be repaired because it was built prior to 1989, okay? So there's no problem with that. Mr. Brooks's drawings or what have you have not been to scale, so I'm a little befuddled about things like that. I do have the concern about there's no showing the setback from Boathouse Way. Why he didn't have any blueprints or diagrams to scale or total photos of the boathouse. because, including even the vegetation and trees behind it. I have a problem with that. And he said he was going to put it in the same footprint. And yet in the prior meeting, he said it was about 8 feet wide, etc. Now he wants to build a 10 by 20 plus a 4 by 10 stairs and landing. So that wasn't clear, and it was misleading at the prior meeting. And is there any reason to move the boathouse any further back, closer to the property line? And let me see. Well, I addressed the trees and the ground cover, etc. In your mission statement, I believe that you that the Littleton Conservation Commission did not make site visits during the wet season, you know, the rain, snow, etc. So, I mean, I really think it would behoove you to go down there and take a look at it, because Mr. Brooks, both in his 2021 and his on his NOI and his DOA, didn't include a number of the items on his checklist. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I got the impression that when he was talking about leaving his building supplies and his cement mixer, that would be on the private driveway. It is not a private driveway. It is Boathouse Way, and it's on Littleton maps, LU 27.
Okay.
And it's named.
Yep. Okay. Let's go ahead. Mr. Brooks, you want to start to address some of the questions that have been put forth?
Yeah, absolutely. This
Okay.
actually is a to scale plan. I've taken measurements. This is a CAD drawing. It is to scale. There is a setback here. This 10-foot is not marked as a setback, but down in this bottom right-hand corner, that is the setback. It's 10 foot in Littleton, Massachusetts, and that's why it exists. So that is the setback. There's a question about sizing. It is true. We talked about this last time. The current shed is 8 by 25, and that's 200 square feet, and I've changed it to a 10 by 20. The reason I've changed it is because the current shed is a little bit closer to 10 feet. So it wouldn't abide by the 10-foot setback rule. So by changing the size of the shed, I actually am in alignment with the setback rule. It is the same size. It's the same size, and then yeah, there's a porch and stairs on the front. But the reason for that is because you can't open a door on stairs, for one. And two is, if you look at the original shed, which again, there are pictures of the shed. It's not part of the application. It's part of the presentation that I'm showing right now. And I assume you can see the presentation, but this is quite a bit of area for stairs. So it's not like I'm trying to slide one by anybody. Site visit, Miss Green and Mr. Pearson did come down at some point and talk to me a little bit about it. So that prior to me filing, I am not going to store a concrete mixer in the road. At the end of the day, when I'm done, I'm removing all my materials and going back up to my house with them. I'll be working out of a pickup truck. Did I miss anything?
I think, Mr. Brooks, you had mentioned that in order to be accurate with the building code, you did have to readjust the landing for the stairs, and that's where you're at that 4 foot in terms of proper, in terms of egress or.
Correct. You can't be on, like, code doesn't allow you to open a door into a stairwell. So you have to have a landing area to do that. They wouldn't approve it. It's not safe.
May I speak?
Yes.
All right. Now, this is all based on what Mr. Brooks presented at the last meeting. Okay? He did not have a number of these items. He did not have the dimensions. He did not have the setback and the footage and what have you. I mean, of course, I went on what he presented the last time.
Okay.
And,
And are you able to see what he has on his screen, what's been presented? So
yes.
it is common that these hearings evolve over time. And so historically, we would have a meeting. Amy and Tim did go out on site, and it does not require that commissioners need to go on site. We have agents that can do that for us. And so we had to ask Mr. Brooks to give us more detail, and he has provided that to scale to us tonight for this discussion.
All right. Now, one other thing, though, that's still, well, on the dock, I've got no problems, but I mean, he was very misleading in his previous presentation. I mean, if you built the dock yourself, you should know how old it was because you bought the materials. So, I mean, that's one other thing. And I believe, at least I believe that you misled the group when you did mention you would be storing your building materials and cement mixer on the private driveway. Now, this is not about the ease or access that Mr. Pearson keeps thinking that I'm going to hound upon. When we were down there at Thanksgiving, though, you had blocked off the roadway with sawhorses, and I could not get to my property. I have a camp there. Where are you going to park your vehicle? Are you going to block the road so I can't have access?
No, I can pull it to the side. Absolutely. That's not a problem.
Commissioners, do we have any additional questions based on some of the questions or comments that have been put forth?
Yes, Mr. Brooks, do you have a preferred alternative? I guess I haven't really heard direction on which route you're going to attempt. I know we have a preliminary alternative, but I haven't.
You mean in terms of these two plans, Mr. Maxfield?
Yeah. Are you going to try to do the primary, or?
I think I'm going to try and do the primary. Yeah, I've been going back and forth whether there's it's worth the effort to move it back. I think long term there might be, because I can improve the area in front of it, but it obviously requires a bit more work. But I don't know. I keep going back and forth. But if you ask me today, yeah, I'm probably just going to stick with the primary.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you're going to stick with the primary and not have the second option, we could entertain, if there's no more discussion, closing that. But if you do want the opportunity to have a second option, you would have to give us the narrative on the stabilization area, which would then, we would put forth to the March 18th meeting. What is your pleasure?
Got it. Can I just take a quick poll of the commissioners? Do you guys feel like there's value in moving this back or not?
Commissioners, you've been asked for an opinion, which is not a vote.
I don't see it
I'm not
added
sure.
value. I mean, what was it? 4
7 feet,
7
maybe.
feet?
Yeah.
I personally, I don't. I mean, you're going to expose ground that hasn't been stabilized compared to putting the shed over current stabilized land. In my eyes, I assume I would rather it stay in the same footprint.
Okay.
Those three trees, Mr. Brooks, in front, are those going to be able to remain, the hemlocks and that pine? I mean, the birch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that would be the one stipulation right there. If somehow
Yeah, I don't
trees
intend-
would get destroyed, then
Yeah,
yes, move it.
I'm not going to hurt the trees, and they'll remain there.
You
So yeah,
said-
I guess given your feedback, I guess I would say, yeah, let's just go with the primary, and I'll leave the alternate off the plan.
Are those three trees noted on this plan? I see two. Or
Two of them definitely are.
There's one at the bottom. There's a birch tree at the bottom here. You guys see that? Near the erosion control.
Can
The
you go back
photo-
to the pictures? Yeah, the pictures seem to show more than just two
Right.
trees. I guess.
Oh, yeah. I didn't put anything that was not within the work area.
those
I mean,
right. Yeah,
So those are
keep
the two.
going.
These
There's
are the
another-
sorry. Those are the two trees. There's no trees here. There's a dead hemlock right here. That's like sitting there. I didn't put that on the plan. That's not going anywhere
So
until it falls.
you have 4 trees right there.
So I think those are
Yeah, there's
closer to the property boundary. I think
there's
they're a lot
one-
further than we think.
There's one birch tree to the right of this that you can't see.
Okay.
That's the
Yeah.
last birch tree. I have 3 trees notated on that plan, and then there is is there an
So-
upland shot? I don't
Yeah,
think I have
it's-
an upland shot.
So Sarah, that hemlock, if you look at his plan, is at the corner of the shed. So those other two are further away or further.
So
to the right.
all I want to make sure is that they're noted on this plan.
Yeah,
All the trees that are
Mm-hmm.
in the area are notated on that plan. There's obviously a lot more trees in the area that aren't even that don't
Sure.
we really don't need to discuss. So
Mr. Brooks, did you say the current footprint is 8 feet by 25 feet?
yes,
So, and you're bringing it down to 20 feet, so that means it's gonna be 5 feet that's under the shed right now that's going to be no longer under the shed, right?
you lost me on that a little bit.
Well, you've got 25 feet now, you're going down to 20 feet,
Correct.
so that extra 5 feet at the end?
That extra 5 feet is where that landing and the
Yeah, it's the
stairwells goes.
stairs.
Remember?
Okay.
So that basically
So the
Uh,
footprint itself is in fact 20 feet plus the landing after that?
20 feet plus the landing. Yeah.
Okay,
And then this one is 25 feet plus the stairs, right? I didn't put these, like, this is probably,
well, no, that's what I was asking though, this one, the picture you have right here, you said it's 25 feet long.
it is, yep. Plus the stairs.
Plus the stairs.
Plus the stairs, yeah.
Right, you're going down to 20 feet plus stairs.
Correct.
Won't there be 5 feet that's currently underneath this that will now be no longer under it and will need to have some kind of treatment? Similar to if you were to move the shed uphill?
It's
Treatment.
the 4 foot.
Am I missing something?
The 4 foot stair landing is pretty much your 5 feet.
Right,
Right.
yeah, so your space is still 200, and then you're adding the stairs on.
yeah.
Yeah, I see where you're going in, but I think that the stairs are taking into that.
It's
Uh,
gonna
that-
cover
that
all but
space.
maybe a foot of it, right?
Right.
All right, I just heard 25 feet and plus the stairs, and we're seeing 20 feet plus the stairs, so I wondered what happened to the 5 feet.
Okay. So is it your pleasure to just stick with Plan A?
Correct. Yeah. Let's stick with the primary plan.
Okay. Is there any other discussion or questions on this? For 10 Sarah Indian Way? We have a hand up.
It's Paula again.
Yep, go ahead. Please introduce yourself again, please.
Paula Forsythe Torielli.
Okay.
Okay. I'm wondering how come it still says private driveway and then it ends at the boathouse, and also what is the, why don't we have the lot line on the other side of Mr. Brooks' lot, and is 10 feet enough to the Strayers property?
I
10
believe
feet is,
that
10
10
feet
feet is the required setback for the town of Littleton.
Okay, so
Yeah.
10 is the minimal, in other words?
Correct.
Okay,
That is the minimum that is required by the town.
all right. And I still don't understand why it says private driveway when it's accepted on the town maps. My only other question being is, was anyone else erroneously misled at the last meeting? I could swear that Mr. Brooks said he was going to park his materials on Boathouse Way while he was building it. And I thought that was brought up by one of the commission members at the time.
Yeah, I think Mr. Gerbig mentioned it, but I have no intention of storing materials on the driveway.
Excuse me, I didn't ask you, Mr. Brooks. I asked the commissioners to find out if any of them, because you did not respond to the gentleman's answer at the time on a number of things. You just kind of left it hanging there vaguely. And
Right, so-
I don't find that very forthcoming, very.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, so let us carry on with this. So commissioners, do we
Yes.
have any questions? So on this, we can have Mr. Brooks denote and remove the private driveway and put the name, proper signage of that road.
Yeah, it's
And
in
that
his,
there
it's
would-
in his packet, Sarah. It's in, he provided the town map, the parcel map. Like, sure, it's fine if you want to, I guess dots and i's, cross some t's.
Yep,
That's-
and then it would also be in the notes that the road cannot be blocked during construction, that they still have to have right of way. Tim, you can put that in.
Yeah, that's just a condition, right? That's-
Yep.
And he answered the question, right? When we
Yep.
talked about material storage, that nothing
Right.
would be stored in the area or in the resource area. So.
Right.
I assume that's a standard condition anyway, for all of our projects.
Okay. Do we have a motion? This is a request for determination of applicability.
Sure, I will make a motion that we close public hearing and is it issue a -3 determination for 10 Sarah India Way U27-15-0
Okay, do we have a second?
with the
Is-
conditions.
With waiver? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
With the
with
conditions.
with the conditions and waiver, as discussed.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Ed,
Ed Folds, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Sarah,
Harris Hayward, aye.
myself, I. It's unanimous.
Tim, can you just make sure one of those conditions is that if the second alternative, like, I guess we have to make sure that that second alternative is in their condition somewhere, right?
No, we're
Or-
not.
No,
it's
not
been
at all. So
removed.
he would just have to he would just have to
Yeah, so
reapply.
there is no second condition. It's only, so
He would just
this,
reapply
that
if
was
he can't go forward.
presented, is approved.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Great, thank you.
Okay, it's 8:37. We're gonna go ahead to the 8:15 continued public hearing notice of intent. 91 Mattawanakee Trail, Mass DEP 204-1014. U47-26-0 bylaw waiver required, addition and renovation of existing deck. Who's here to speak with that? Kevin Eastman? Where did he go? There he is. Kevin, you are muted at the moment. Mr. Eastman? Mr. Eastman, you're muted. Okay, Mr. Eastman, you're on if you'd like to chat with us. Commissioners, you'll note that in your packet, you received the narrative from Mr. Eastman, which was 2 pages and then 4 pages of photos and diagrams. Mr. Eastman, I can see that you're no longer muted. I'm not sure if you can see us or hear us. Commissioners, I do not want to proceed unless Mr. Eastman is able to kind of go through the narrative of all his drainage. Commissioners, what would you like to do? Would you like to hold off for a little bit on Mr. Eastman and go to our 8:30?
That sounds good.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Mr. Eastman, if you can connect with us, we will put you on after our 8:30 notice of intent. So, I'm going to move Bruce over. Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and keep the 8:15 open. We'll come back to it hopefully with Mr. Eastman and officially open the 8:30 continued public hearing notice of intent, Healy Corner, 195 Tehadawon, R07-1-0, Mass DEP 204-0899, construction of an open space development, including tree clearing and grubbing, grading, construction of subdivision, roadway, stormwater management systems, septic systems, and multi-single family dwelling. Mr. Ringwald, are you here?
Good evening.
Good evening, Bruce.
Could you introduce yourself for those that may not know you?
Certainly. Bruce Ringwald from Goldsmith Preston Ringwald, representing Healy Corner this evening. I apologize that I didn't get anything to you guys much in advance of this meeting, but court action actually just wound up the end of last week. I had conversations with the applicant. And I had sent Tim at the very end of the day, after Tim left, a written document requesting the withdrawal of this notice of intent, and asked the board to agree to allow us to withdraw this notice of intent. Commission, pardon.
Okay. You have been heard, and I just have to have the members acknowledge that as well, Bruce. So
Yep.
With a formal withdrawal, we would accept that with a unconditional vote. So I make a motion that the withdrawal is supported.
Second. All right, roll call vote. Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle.
Maxfield, aye.
Ed.
Ed Foltz, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Bruce, you
That's
want to give
great,
us? You want to give us any update, or are you just going to leave us hanging?
Will we see you again, or
You know, I really don't know. I don't know exactly what is going on in the background. I know that lots 1 and 2 have been sold from the A&R plan that was done. Working with that contractor currently. I don't know about the rest of the property at this point. I've not been enlightened.
Okay. I guess.
But I will hang out if I may, because I think
I know. Well, I have to officially close you out of this one. So,
All right.
okay. So I would like to now continue with keeping 91 Mattawanakie open and go to the next hearing, which is scheduled for 8:35. It's 8:45 now. It is a continued public hearing, notice of intent 35 Queen, U15-23-4, -0, Mass DEP 204-0973. This is a house demolition as required by the building inspector. So Bruce, I understand you are representing 35 Queen.
I am more or less. Now, you may know and remember that GPR did not file this notice of intent. This notice of intent was filed actually by Sean Keen for the property owner.
Yep.
Sean and I have Sean's had more conversation with the property owner than I have asked for input. I wanted to have something to you guys a week ago. And I got authorization from Sean today, late this afternoon. Again, sent a formal letter and authorization email from Sean, whereby GPR didn't make this filing. I don't have a letter of authorization that was in our file, so I got one today to also request a withdrawal. The property owner is heading in a different direction. I'm not sure exactly what that direction is. So again, as representative of Mr. Keen, I will request that the commission allow us to withdraw this notice of intent as well. And I'm only sad that I didn't get to do these for Amy while she was still there, but
Here in spirit. Okay, I would formally request that the commission go ahead and withdraw this notice of intent for 35 Queen. That would be my motion.
Second.
Roll call vote. Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Ed.
Ed Foltz, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Great.
Bruce,
was
do
one
you
of the
have
quickest-
anything in the pipeline for Littleton or no?
Yes, but nothing right today.
All right. We will wait with bated breath, I'm sure.
All
Okay.
right, do I get the prize though for the longest open hearing?
Yeah, you might, at least in my tenure, for sure.
Yeah.
And the shortest hearing
all
in
for
the
naught.
evening.
And the shortest hearings of the evening. There you go. All
Yeah.
right, two back to back.
Longest open job with no result though. That's an interesting way to end it.
There you
Yeah.
go. All right, guys. I look forward to seeing you soon. I will have a filing for you in the nearest future.
Okay.
Good luck, Bruce.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Bruce.
Have a good night,
Good
guys.
night.
You too.
Good night, Bruce.
Okay. It is 8:46. We're going to keep open the 91 Mattawanakie and go to our 8:40, which is a continued public hearing, notice of intent, 13 Winged Cove Road, Mass DEP 204 what is that, 1008 U48-6-0, bylaw waiver required, demolition and reconstruction of existing house and associated work and permitting docs. All right. Who's here? Melissa, I am moving you to panelist. Kyle, Melissa, anybody?
Melissa is muted.
Hey,
Hi there. Welcome.
how's it going? So, we'll be quick too. We spoke with Amy actually on her last day. Congrats to her. But we just wanted to, she said, just come on and formally request this. So we are still in the house planning stages. So we're looking for, she recommended a 6-month extension.
Okay.
Just to get us to where we want to be a little bit closer, so we're not coming back and forth too much.
Okay, and we appreciate that. Tim, you and I had talked about this. So Melissa, at the present time, because
Yep.
we have to extend it to an actual date in the future, we're
Okay.
only booking out right now August 19th. So
Mm-hmm.
for tonight's purposes, we're going to say August 19th, but
Okay.
once we know those other months, we'll just go ahead and continue it out with
That's
your permission.
perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
appreciate it. Thank you guys so
Okay.
much for your time.
So yeah, and so as you start to formulate different plans, try and give us like a month's notice so that
Okay.
way we can start to get you back in the fold for meetings. But as of tonight, we'll continue you to August 19th.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you for joining us.
Good night.
Bye bye.
The 8:45, Chase is not here, so we will do that the next time. Transfer of NAGOG, nothing has happened. Let's come back to the 8:15 continued public hearing, notice of intent 91 Mattawanakie Trail, Mass DEP 204-1014. Mr. Eastman, I see that you're on. Can you hear us and can you speak with us? Tim, any suggestions? Amber, any suggestions?
Just going to say disconnect and reconnect.
I was gonna say maybe disconnect and try. Isn't there a way you can call in with your phone, but you don't get to see anything? I think it's just audio, right? I believe that should be
That number's on the link for the town.
in the agenda. Yeah,
Yeah, but we don't know if he can hear you.
that's a good point.
Short of Tim sending an email, I got nothing.
Jim, do you want to open your email and see if you have anything in there?
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay. Well, that's unusual. I guess with the commission's support and
He
He
just
just
dropped.
logged off. Do we want to try to see if he logs back on? Or give him a
I
chance?
think he already did.
Is
Might be
Kev
Kev, yeah. I'll try that.
So if there's someone that's in as a panelist, we have 3 people. Oh, okay. Tim, do you know who that is?
Kev, you? No, they just joined, so I'm assuming that's Kevin. The other 2 have been here for quite a while.
So, Mr. Eastman, if that's you, that's KEVU, you are both muted and your camera's off. Which would be the lower left of your Zoom screen. And we see that your microphone is off. No, is on now. Any Zoom wizards out there that want to help?
I was just looking at our agenda, and actually, unfortunately, the number isn't included in our posting.
Isn't it there when you first click that link, though? A number comes up? Maybe not.
I think that's just the webinar ID, actually.
Okay.
The only thing, again, we don't know if Kevin can hear us, but Kevin, if you click the arrow next to the mute button in the bottom left, a bunch of options come up for audio. You might have to just try to pick a different speaker if you have a different option.
Or pick a different microphone.
Right.
Oh, sorry, microphone. I was looking at speaker, not microphone.
Commissioners, what would you like to do?
I'm not sure we have any options.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Technical difficulties and all.
I would encourage everyone to read the backup notes that were submitted for Mr. Eastman. So, Mr. Eastman, I'm not sure if you can hear us or not, but if you'd like to contact Tim at the Conservation Office, we will go ahead and move you to our next meeting, which is March 18th, which is still online.
Maybe he can work with Tim also about
Or even
how to use his Zoom.
We've talked to him in the past. Hopefully, it's
Yeah,
just a
that's
one-off
what I
because
thought too.
we've met with him more than once, right? So
right,
I think we've had
Yeah, that's true.
technical difficulties in the past.
we did.
Uh,
So perhaps even, I don't know if you can do it at the library or do it somewhere else as well.
Mhm.
Okay. It's 8:54. If we could have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
All right, final roll call of the night. Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Ed,
Ed Foltzai.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, I.
and myself, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Be